So continuing with disassembly, I thought I'd finished, but when cleaning up the face of the wheels, just with hot water and a bit of soap and a toothbrush, it was, as you can see, this paint was just coming off of the front wheels here, and it wasn't great on the rear wheels. So I was trying to avoid paint because it's hard to get the look right when you start painting one thing and not another. So before I started taking the paint off, I'd been down to my local automotive shop and got the closest red that I could find. My post box red is just too bright for these wheels, and it just wouldn't suit the tone of green. So hopefully that should be an accurate red. And what I'm using is Nitromorse paint and varnish remover. I think it's pretty much the best you can get out there at the moment. I mean, it's nothing like the Nitromorse used to be. You know, I used to have to wear a hazmat suit and goggles and everything. I think I could probably paint that on my eyeballs and I wouldn't complain too much with the strength of this new stuff. But it slowly works. You normally have to do about 3 or 4 coats of the stuff these days. But it is the best way of getting off paint in very hard to reach places like these wheels, especially the rear wheels with the angled spokes. So I'll be using an etch primer to obviously prime these wheels, because the red paint is peeling off there, and it's partly due to the metal, the Mazak metal. It's like all aluminiums. You really should etch prime before you paint on top anything, because it's not going to stick. So use the etch primer, and then on top of that I'll use the red automotive paint, which will give a nice finish. And I have bought as well the engine enamel. So that is the best thing to use for fireboxes such as this. I've gone over with a 400 grit and smoothed out, taken off the rust that was around the filler, smoothed out any rough areas where the rust was bubbling. No primer on that, because I don't want there's not such a high temperature base on these primers as the enamel, so the enamel's going to go straight onto it. This is obviously a higher temperature paint than standard car automotive paints, acrylic paints and the like. So the enamel will put up with the heat on the firebox better than other paints. So there we go. We're starting to take the paint off the wheels now, and we'll come back to those once they're all stripped. So all masked up, and I am using etch primer for this, and it's not a thick coat, it's a really thin one, like dusting. So I'm not trying to build layers up or anything. It's what we're trying to do is get adhesion to it all. That's the main purpose. So that's about it really. No more than that, because we don't want to make thick paint. And even when we come to the red, ideally I'd like one coat on there. I don't want to start getting thick, because what will happen is the edge will start coming away if you've got too much paint on. Now the colour, by the way, is Renault Carmen Red. So you can have a look at see how this comes out. And there we are, that's my coat of red. I had done both sides. I've left it so that the longer side is sticking up on top so I don't damage the paint. And personally I think that is a really close red to the original red. What have I? So there we are. We are almost ready for reassembly, but these have got to dry. I've still got those to finish stripping I'll have those painted in red, and then I've got to get these on the lathe, where I'm going to just face the wheels, face the sides of all of those, and then once all that's done, I've got to finish polishing up this. It's got some araldite stuck onto it there, so that's quite fun to try and get that off without scratching this. And then we're almost ready for putting it all back together, the fun bit. So I'm going to show you now what I'm doing to clean these up. Now, I have a lathe, so I'm using a lathe, but most people won't have one of those. So what you can do is go the same way that I have started. Get yourself I'm using an M6 bolt because it's a tight fit in the wheel. A little bit of slack, but I can't go much bigger. Putting a washer either side, and it protects the paint. I put a little spring washer on there. You don't have to, but it just helps keep the washer, keep the nut tight. So what you can do now, if you wanted, is to put that into an electric drill, put that into the chuck, and that would rotate, and then you can hold some sandpaper, wet and dry. Start off with something like a 400 grit, move up to an 800 grit, and then something like a 1200, and then you can go with some Brasso or metal polish, and get to the last little polish up. But I'm going to show you what I'm doing, so we'll move over to the lathe in a moment. I'll just go grab it. I have some air tools, so I use this little die grinder with a buffing wheel in it, and I use a white compound on these wheels, as it's sort of like a medium aggressive material, not too much, and you can pretty much almost leave it at this white compound level, as it leaves a good shine, and that's what I've done with this heat shield here. It's got rid of a lot of surface rust on the top, and it's got right in around the whistle assembly, and polished that up quite nicely. I did finish this off with a bit of jeweler's rouge as well after I had a go at the white, but it wasn't necessary. It's just I did it anyway. Same with that. Just gone round with the with this, polishing off the I don't know what this is. It's like stainless, but does seem to be pitting, so I'm not quite sure what material it is, but it's polished up almost like new. So it's worth getting a polishing wheel if you fancy getting yourself a new tool. It's worth getting one of those. You can do so much with it. So as I said, we'll go over to the lathe now. I'll throw this in the chuck and show you what I've been doing. So here we are. Tighten that up in here, and then tighten this nut up. Now it's not going to run very true because there is slop in the inside of this, which is why I'm not using my slide here. I'm just doing it by hand. I've got it on a relatively slow speed so it doesn't run away with me. What I've started to do first of all is just cut either side with a file. Oops, like dropping down. Cut down with a file, just gently, where the edges of the paint have come up, and it just flattens off the side, because where this wheel is cast there's a bit of a lip, so the file smooths it out. So there we go. So I don't know if you can pick that up there, but it's flattened this edge off, which is nice. It makes it a bit shinier. So 400 grit, wrap that round my file so I keep it flat. Always use some water. There you are. You can see how nice that comes up. Right, three more wheels to go.